Today I'd like to introduce Changing Bodies, Changing Minds. It's our program for pre-puberty girls from 10 to 11-year-olds. It's the first program in Australia that we know of that does it, and we run it in school holidays. Unbelievably, we've had 2,880 girls go through it, and when they come in the morning, they're petrified and don't want to leave their mother's hands, and by lunchtime they're dancing around with their friends, and by the end of the day they really do have a friendship going. Teaches them all about periods, teaches them all about the body changes they're going to have, and also what it's going to be like to be growing up in the family. We're now taking it to organisations and we're bringing it to the mothers so that they understand what their children are going through. Some of them at school, some schools do a lot of education, others don't, so at least with this chance of coming to organisations we can teach the mothers as well as to what the girls are having in their programs.
So I've actually been at the hospital. Who knows where the Royal Hospital for Women is? Yeah. I've been there since 1998, so it's like a big home for the Royal Hospital for Women. And then Jo joined us about 6 years ago, so she's part of my team. These were some photographs taken of the girls. We try not to take more than 20 girls because it's large enough. We try not to get a school group, if the girls come into the hospital, large, about 8 or so, because we want the girls to interact with each other, get to know each other during the day, because they do a lot of sitting on the floor. I mean, the whole idea of the day is to talk about puberty. So we talk about menstruation, we get diagrams going with the female body, we draw the body parts onto it, and the girls kind of sit around on the floor. Jo facilitates it. And I often ask questions by the mothers, do we talk about contraception or anything, or babies? Sometimes the question will come up, we'll try and say, this is actually a day for you, it's before you start menstruating and have body changes. We've occasionally run a session for mothers, and I had a mother ring me the other day, and she said to me, puberty is getting younger and younger. There's a few nods on heads here, because my daughter is only 8, we do accept her. So we are finding girls are becoming much younger. So we draw the female body and the body parts, with Jo practicing to be an artist here. So the girls are well and truly in trance with it. And we do have, we're mostly women here, we do have pads and tampons and things. We put them into red water, and we don't quite have blood, but we have something that looks similar to it. But we get talking about the various changes that they have in their body. So we end up with the body written on the butcher's paper, and it's amazing what the girls come out with. You ask them what does puberty mean to them. It's an amazing terms they say, aren't they, as to what it actually means to them. And of course some of the girls, they're the older child in a family, so for them sort of growing up and being the big sister is quite a thing they often spend some time talking about. Yeah, so we ask them what puberty means. For some it means it's gross, hairy, big boobs. They write down all kinds of words. Sleepy, change, pads. Sometimes makes you perfection. Prettier. Yeah, it's amazing. Some of them, all the expressions that come out with, isn't it, Jo? Yeah. So we really do get them to think for the day, because it goes from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m, so it's a full day, which I want. And as I said, we have been out to a couple of schools, but mostly we focus on doing it at the hospital. So I think it's now over to Jo, who's actually going to take you. What we're going to do is we've got the talk, we've also got some little video clips, and there's going to be time for questions at the end from both of us. So I'll hand over to the expert. Well, there we go, there's another puberty. They do have a little questionnaire as well. Can you go swimming when you have a period? That was one of the questions. What's another question?
Can you have a bath?
Yes.
Lay in hot water.
There you go. Okay. Where was you?
We often forget what it's like to be a teenager. We see our own girls and boys acting out and can't make sense of it. So how many of you have younger children that are going to be up and coming adolescents. Okay, great. Good. So this slide shows us all the developments that happen for a girl around puberty that we're all really familiar with. But today what I want to take you through is what happens on a biochemical level and how that reacts in the brain and how that reacts in the emotional body, and then how that gets played out, how they act out with what those different changes that they go through. When they come to us at the hospital, they're so frightened about the changes that are going to happen. Once they start on that journey, it's easy. It's just that step before. This is a graph of the hormonal, I call them with the girls, I call it chemical messengers that go through our body. And this is a menstrual phase of a woman, a 28, 29 day period. And you can see at ovulation where estrogen peaks and progesterone is really quiet until the 2 weeks prior to menstruation, where it then peaks. And estrogen even does a little peak around then too. And then right just before menstruation, a few days before, everything drops. There's even a little bit of testosterone there. But it also drops, all of it does. And we're going to talk about when all of the peaks and the troughs happen, what happens to us and how do we act when those things happen. But I also want to show you just, or give you an idea of the different centres of the brain and what each of them does or means. These are just some of them. But the cingulate cortex is the place where we make decisions from. It's also the place that it's the worry wart. It's where all our worries go. And that part of the brain that is larger in females than males. The prefrontal cortex is, it kind of keeps, it's more got a reasoning ability, so it keeps a lid on the emotions. Stops the instinctual brain from breaking through and everything going wild. That also is larger in females than males. The insula, which I don't think is actually there, that is the part of the brain that holds our intuition. So it processes our gut feelings. And that again is larger in women. And the hippocampus is down the bottom there is the memory. It holds the memory, and also larger in women, which is why I go, oh, that's why we can remember everyone's birthdays and special occasions, and like my partner remembers none of that. So the other one is the amygdala, that's the primitive part of the brain. That's the instinctual part. And that part is larger in men than women. So that's the only one that's larger. Makes sense, doesn't it? So how does that all come together? What happens? So firstly, if we have the estrogen flooding the brain, as you saw at that peak at ovulation, the female wants to be out there socialising. She's a lot more alive. And part of the reason is that when estrogen floods the brain, it also triggers neurochemicals like dopamine and oxytocin. And so those pleasure centres get activated in the body, and part of the pleasure centre being activated is that the female wants to be intimate. And a lot of the ways they're intimate at that age is just through conversation, through talking. Unfortunately, with the males, they have testosterone, and testosterone doesn't have that at all, that gets motivated through sporting activities. So they're completely on polarised ends. Then, as you saw, partway through, the progesterone peaks, and when that happens, it creates more of an irritability in the female. So all those things she felt when estrogen was at a high now is gone, and all she wants to do is be left alone. So the party that she so desperately wanted to go to 2 weeks ago, she doesn't want to know about now. And they, you know, I think even if you want to go and try on a dress, do it at ovulation, not premenstrual. Mind that. Their aggression in women is more closely linked to the cognitive abilities, which I say to my partner, you're never going to win an argument, you know that, because we have that under wraps, you know, our verbal and emotional function from when we're born is much stronger. And what I found interesting in this research is there was an anthropologist named Joan Silk, and she did this 16-year study on baboons. And what she found was that the female baboons that were more socially connected in the group were the ones that survived longer, and also their offspring survived. And what would happen is if the alpha male came around and started bullying one of the females, if she was well connected in the group, the other females would come to her aid, and they'd gather around her and they'd ward the male baboon away, they'd ward him off. So it was in their best interest to stay really socially connected, and really nothing changes in the human species. That need to be connected links back to our survival. So when my daughter's, on the phone, on the computer, and the friend lives 2 doors down, it's that deep instinctual need to stay connected, because that's what keeps us alive. There was a saying, tend and befriend. So you adopt the friends, as particularly if you were, a pregnant woman or a nursing mother, because that way you were protected. That whole inclusion, exclusion that happens with females. That when a girl is excluded, chemically what's going on is that all those neurochemicals like dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin reduce, and cortisol takes over, the stress hormone. So in her body, that's what's happening when friends are saying, no, you can't join us. So, and it's all to do with that place of survival and the need to be liked, because that meant you're going to, survive. I went to visit a friend, and her and her daughter had just been to the shopping mall and come home, and her daughter realised that she'd left her phone at the shopping mall, and she literally got down on all fours and started wailing, crying, sobbing, wailing. And the dad comes out and he's like, what's going on? What's happening? And the mum goes, she left her phone at the mall. The dad's like, think she'll do that when I die? Probably not. So, estrogen acts like a fertilizer on the brain cells. When she's at that peak, that ovulation peak, when estrogen's really surging, she feels so much more alert, faster, more apt, more socially apt. Everything seems to be clearer, and they say that's a much better time to take exams, because as soon as progesterone comes in, it acts like a weed killer, and everything slows down and gets foggy and unclear. I go, yeah, I remember I used to, try and park the car at that time, and it's like, whoops, I hit something. So that whole, just so much clearer when the estrogen is running through the body than the progesterone. And just before menstruation, those 2 days where everything drops, the prefrontal cortex that keeps the lid on, you know, all those wild emotions, it completely falls apart. So all the amygdala is able to come through, and you know, when you see that unreasonable daughter, she's just lost it completely. It's like at that time, and it's because she has the brain has no control over that. And that's when they make often really silly decisions. I'm going to run away with the boyfriend. I'm going to leave school, you know. And it's just that small window of time that it's almost like they have no control over. But this is the girl psychology and the difference between girl psychology and women's psychology. And I think it's really valuable just to go through it. You know, in girl psychology, we look to peer group for acceptance, but in women's psychology, we look to self for acceptance. Ruled by emotions or own emotions. Heavily relies on male approval or seeks an equal relationship with men. No responsibility for actions or full responsibility for actions. Sees other girls and women as competition or sees other women as support. Body image drives identity, self-acceptance drives identity, cares only for self and only for others, or balances care for self and others. And it can take us a lifetime to get to women's psychology. But if we as mothers, aunties, sisters, girlfriends, if we can start working towards that, then that's what we mirror for our younger generation. My daughter, who's now 30, you know, discovered this a few years ago. I think she was about 26, and she was like, oh, this makes so much sense. So it didn't necessarily make sense to her when she was 18, but watching me live into that would have planted a seed. So knowing all of the, you know, the physical things that happen, and then how that might play out, how do we as, you know, carers or parents work with the adolescent girl and boy? Some of the tools. And one of them is, what are our values? Just to even know what our values are, and if we're in a partnership, what's our partner's values? And then how does that work together? How do we work together to bring that into our family? There's a little exercise where if you had 10 commandments, if these were your 10 commandments, what would they be? And you know, if you have a partner, what would theirs be? And how does that marry? And does it change as your family grows? Or have you got the same values all the way through? I'd really love to just mention something about the relationship between the adolescent girl and their fathers, or the male role model in their life. If you know, I think a lot of men, they can be a little bit frightened of their teenage girl. Have you got girls?
Yes.
How old's your girl?
She's 10.
Okay. So, you know, when they start moving through that change, it can be, I don't know what to do here, and they aligned more with mum, and so they kind of take a step back. But it's so vitally important that what they get to see is this healthy masculine, and be in relationship with this healthy masculine. Because as women, when we step out into the world, and we take our healthy masculine, our inner one, with us, and that gets acted out by our decision making, our goal setting, our inner protector. So is this safe or isn't it safe? Well, if Dad has shown me how to be in that, I know that somewhere inside of myself. So the role of the dads or the male role model is really important at that age. Rather than taking a step back, you need to kind of take a step forward. And also the relationship she has with you, that is going to colour the relationship that she might end up with another, if she ends up with a man. So encouraging, once again, role modelling healthy eating attitudes. It should be healthy habits and healthy attitudes. And part of that is, you know, what we eat and, you know, healthy food, but also not to obsess over it. And there are, I think you've got like a little package to take home, and there should be websites that you can access, people you can access if you suspect your daughter may have an eating issue. And it's so important, you know, that whole beauty myth that our culture has. And I'll talk a little bit more about that and show you some footage. But how we are about our bodies is one of the most important things. It gets passed down really subtly. You don't even sometimes realise it. So let's have a look at a bit of footage. This is part of the Dove campaign on mothers and daughters and how they see their bodies.
I worry that she's inherited, oh gosh.
My number one hate on my body is
my eyes are wonky.
My bingo arms. I have very big legs.
I'm not keen on my legs, but I just try to focus on the fact that they're very strong and that I'm a very good runner.
I have a belief that the fact that I smile a lot has a lot to do with why my skin stays nice.
Brilliant.
I mean, that's Phoenix's list. Okay.
Eyes, we don't like our eyes. Oh, she said her thighs too, didn't she? She said her legs. We both don't like our nose. I think don't like my arms, and she doesn't like her arms either.
So I've put hips and sort of bum area, sort of upper thighs, and Lily's put her legs as well.
I have tried to make my girls feel good. Well, I did say to her, I don't like this thing of, you know, these body parts of mine, and I think that's why she probably picked it up.
Yeah, looking at it, she really picks up a lot of my ways. She does.
Just be confident with yourself and how, just realize how you can influence your child. Have a look those are the things that I like.
Lips, bum.
Yeah, I do like my bum.
I like my face because it's smiley.
Legs, you wrote legs. Why do you like your legs?
Because they're good for running.
Really? Is that why you like them?
Self-worth and beauty, it is an echo. It can echo from me to them and then from them to others.
Be happy. Just be happy.
how I feel about myself really affects how she feels about herself.
Why do you like your mole then?
Because it's the same as yours.
Listening, that skill is so important. It helps them be able to solve their own problems. It becomes, if you can be that sounding board, then they can use you as that, and then they can sort it out for themselves, which is what we want. We don't want to be sorting out their problems for the rest of their lives. And of course, then they grow strategies for themselves. Instead of, being 40 and going, Mum, I don't know what to do here. And, you know, coming back to you seeking her opinion. What do you think? You've made good decisions before. What do you think? And in that way, it helps to grow that intuitive body as well. And to listen to what they say and not take them into a place of shaming. As parents, one of the other things that's important is our own healthy boundaries. So we're allowed to say no to our kids, and we're allowed to say it in a way that is still, you know, I go boundaries with heart, that we're able to do it where we love them still for who they are, we're kind about it, but here's the line. And no, you can't do that. When we show them healthy boundaries, that's what they grow as well. That's what they start to formulate. So when the time comes and they need to say no to a peer around something, they have the ability, the courage, they've seen the role modelling, and they can do it as well. So you know that sometimes to be cruel, to be kind. And one of the other things I found really valuable personally in all of this was I didn't have sisters. So having a good network of girlfriends that I called the aunties, that my daughter could go to and listen to, because, you know, it was like, I don't want to talk to mum about that, or, you know, that was the last person she was going to come to, but she could go to my girlfriend and talk about something. And I often say to the girls, if you have, you know, the hand, if you have 5 people that you could go to talk to about, you know, 5 adults, excuse me, who would they be? Because sometimes peers don't always give you the best advice, the best information. So who would those 5 adults be? And the other thing that we're faced with is the social and the cultural influence. So I liken a human being to a tree. When they're born, say the roots is them. It's what they're born in with, what they come into this world with. So already some of their personality is developed, it's already there. How they're born, where they're situated in the family line. Are they the firstborn, the lastborn, you know, twins? The trunk is the family. So all the values that the family bring to that child, that's the trunk. And then the branches and the leaves are the societal norms, our culture. And as they move into adolescence, it's the branches and the trees that they're wanting to spread and know about and become part of. But if they have that strong trunk and root system, they survive all that, they get through it all. So it's our job to give them that to begin with if we can. And the last of these slides is about, you know, female support, female camaraderie, the importance of that, which is part of the aunties, but also encouraging girls to do things together as a team. So playing a team sport's really valuable. And I think as parenting, it's the small things that we do, you know. How many of us go to Saturday morning games and hang around in the cold or the heat, the searing heat, or get up at, you know, the crack of dawn, or stay up till all hours helping them finish that assignment that's due in tomorrow, looking up websites or cutting out pictures or whatever, you know, it's those things. And I remember one of my boys was in trouble, and he was already just on that verge of young adult. And he'd been away and he came home with his tail between his legs. And I said to my partner, what are we going to do, you know? And he's like, you know what, Joe, we're just going to pick him up, help dust him off, and love him anyway. And I thought they were such good words for me to hear. you know, because I was going to go into the whole lecturing mode, and I really needed to hear those words. And that's all he needed. That to show that he was still loved regardless, and we were there for him. I think the one important thing here is for us also to take a stand against, you know, that relational violence, that gossiping and exclusion's not acceptable behaviour. And if we don't do it as women, that's what we show our girls. Don't do that. That's not okay. So rather than read this, because I think this information might be in your handout, I want to run through just very quickly, and I'm going to show you another piece of footage and finish up. Some facts based on a woman called Megan Ramsey, who also does a Self-Esteem Dove campaign. You can look her up. It's Why Thinking You're Ugly is Bad for You. And she says that 6 out of 10 girls aren't doing any activities because of the way they think they look. 31% will withdraw from classroom debating because they don't want to draw attention to them and how they look. 1 in 5 don't show up for class at all because of that reason. Exam times, they've discovered that if a girl doesn't think she looks okay, regardless of whether she's beautiful or not, if she doesn't think she looks okay, her average score will plummet. And this isn't just in Australia, it's consistent across the world. So countries like Finland, the US and China, so a broad range. It's a worldwide epidemic, I say. Low body confidence undermines not just academic achievement, but also health. So they tend to do less physical activity, they tend to eat less healthy, they partake in unhealthy weight control practices that leads to eating disorders. They have lower self-esteem, they're more easily influenced, and they have a greater risk of depression. And because of all of that, this can then also lead to risk-taking behaviours such as alcohol and drug use, crash dieting, unprotected and early sex, cosmetic surgery and self-harm. So you can see how it can get its tentacles into all of those different places. 10,000 people every month Google, "Am I ugly?" 10,000 people. It's a joke, isn't it? And 97% of women will say something cruel about their bodies today. It's 97%. That's such a huge ratio. And you know, the average teenager is exposed to 3,000 ads a day. 3,000. And most of those will have a sexualised female. So what that whole beauty myth is in their face constantly. And it's not just affecting our girls, it's affecting our boys as well. And this is starting from as young as, 8 and earlier. You know, I say sometimes the Disney princesses have a lot to answer for. So I want to show you a beautiful piece of footage by a woman called Taryn Brumfitt, who is doing a documentary on body image and movement.
You are fat and you are ugly and you are disgusting. That's what I used to say to myself when I looked in the mirror. I loathed my body. I hated my body.
I'm not going by myself. Don't, come on. Tara, please, we're running late already. Please don't do this to me.
I asked 100 women to give me one word to describe their bodies.
Wobbly, imperfect,
stumpy,
very average, short. I'd like to be thinner.
not perfect. I need to lose weight.
I don't like this body like now.
Not nice to look at.
Maybe I'm a little bit fat.
It's like frumpy, it's kind of gross. I hate it. I feel disgusting.
I feel disgusting.
Disgusting.
I was watching Michaela play and I thought to myself, how am I going to teach my beautiful daughter? How am I going to teach her to love her body if her mum can't do the same? I just want a taste of it. I want the perfect body. So I did something crazy. I entered myself into a bodybuilding competition. Crazy. And I did have the perfect body, or near enough. And you know what? Nothing changed. Nothing changed about how I felt about my body.
So when I posted this on Facebook at 9:15 on a Sunday night, it got 3.6 million hits, and everyone in the US picked it up and the UK got their hands on it, and it went viral, because heaven forbid a woman can love her body after. I just met two women on the beach. One was standing next to me and she was a complete stranger, and she just squeals and says, "Ah, there's another woman with one boob, just like me." And she ran over and she hugged the woman who'd also lost her boob. And it's exactly what this event's about. And it's exactly what the body image movement is all about. And it's about teaching women to just love their bodies. And these women love their bodies, even with one boob. And they were courageous and they were beautiful, beautiful women. And that for me was gold. Okay, Rita, can you give me one word to describe your body?
Soft and luscious.
Soft and...
Luscious.
And luscious?
Yeah.
That's the perfect answer. That's the best answer I've had all day.
Really?
Yeah, I thought it was great, and I thought what I took out of it was the importance of relationships for my daughter as she grows up, with particularly adult role models, including with me as her father, and how that affects the way she sees herself and her confidence in the future.
I think one of the things I will definitely take away is that 2 days before you get your period, you kind of lose all inhibitions, and what that means for my daughter and myself. I think it's made me more aware of how I can cope with those instances and the strategies I need to come up with when I feel she's being unreasonable. So it was something I had no idea about, and now I do, and it's going to help, I think.
I found the session fabulous. I teach BJP physical culture and predominantly work with girls from 12 years onwards, and a lot of our focus is around empowering girls and giving that sense of self and purpose and esteem. And some of the tips and tricks that we learnt here today were just sensational in terms of being able to help the girls and have fun and be confident, so really enjoyed it.